Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mack Flash 5, the show where we like to list our top 5 movie things.
Stuff and things.
Movies and things inside those movies, moments from those movies, moments from a series of movies,
Dolly Grips,
moments from
boys.
Marvel movies.
Oh, wait, that's what we're doing?
Oh, yeah.
My name is Matt. Next to me is Scott. Below him is Mike. And across the street there is AB.
What's up, guys?
Good evening.
Today we're going to do, as the title shown, our top 5.
Bring me Thanos!
Our top 5 moments in the MCU in conjunction with the first episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier dropped the other day. Guys, I know you loved it as much as I did.
We went a whole year without Marvel content. We got WandaVision. We got Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Loki's around the corner. Black Widow maybe this year. Finally.
Things are looking up again, guys. Things are looking up. You had the 2020 snap, and now everything is coming back. We won. Everything is coming back.
We won.
Time Heist brought us back to
21 Time Heist.
It's a good thing I had all those PIM particles stored up,
Yeah, we went to the future, grabbed some vials of vaccine, and brought it back.
Boom. Boom. We're all good again.
But yeah, like I said, it's the top 5 moments from the MCU. Scott, was your pick. You're gonna lead us off, and I know you're excited.
I'm very excited. This is probably my favorite saga of films. It's bypassed Star Wars to me in every way. I think it's the greatest achievement in film history. I think it's the greatest achievement in film history. We're going to talk about all the reasons I like. First and foremost, this is a category I've wanted to do for a while. I have proudly seen every film in theaters from 2008's Iron Man up into Far From Home, which was the last released film. So at this point, I am well-versed in all things MCU. So I'm glad we were able to get this category done. So for me, I'm going to kick things off, and I'm going to go with my number 5. So my number 5 today is going to be from a little bit of trouble here first. Sorry, guys.
No, that would have been cool.
I know. Having some trouble here, guys. One sec. Oh, shoot.
Well, I'll just remind, because I forgot to mention how the show works. After we decide on a subject, we go our separate ways and collect our top 5 things that fall on that topic. And then we come back and list them here. Normally, we would do our top 3 in discussion and then just do 2 honorable mentions. This one's a special episode, I think, and we're going to be talking about all 5 of our picks.
Cool. I do have this. I had it here. I had 2 screens open, so we're going to go without further ado. My number 5 today. And it's from.
There you go.
This is 5.
I know. That's what I.
Yeah.
How many more Killmonger clips can we get? Is there going to be 5 Killmonger clips?
I live my entire life
Waiting for this moment. So first and foremost, reason I picked this, I'm a villain guy. We're going to talk about this exactly, and I do think that there are 4 other scenes that come up. But this scene. Took a little bit of work to get on. There are a lot, and I said to AB, there are a lot of 10 out of 10 scenes I could put in this saga. This is certainly one too. So this is Eric Killmonger, who's come back to Wakanda to reclaim his throne from T'Challa, who's the king. I am so much of a Killmonger fan that I went out and bought an actual Killmonger jersey that I can wear that says Wakanda, and I do have this scene as well, printed in art, hanging up on my wall. So in this, they do battle on the cliffside in Wakanda, culminating in one of my favorite little bits. I'm sorry here, guys. This might be a tough episode.
Everyone at home, pay attention to some of the dialogue, because I'm certain part of the quickie will be the quickie quiz will be quotes being said in some of these clips.
Just listen to what Scott says. He's going to say them all throughout the night.
So that's after he killed Forrest Whitaker, who was his uncle, who turned on him as a child too. So
this your king? Huh? Is this your king?
Taunting.
The Black Panther, who's about to lead you into the future. Come on, brother!
Is there nothing that can be done?
Him? He's supposed to protect you.
I'm going for the airplane ride.
It's a powerful scene every time.
It is.
So, yeah. I'm just sorry. Thrown off. Internet's pretty bad here.
He gone. That's the end of the movie, guys. That's how Black Panther ends.
Oh my gosh.
He tosses him off the cliff. Black Panther. Now it's Eric Killmonger as Black Panther.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I love. I love villains in the film. Sorry. So you guys said this was low. It threw me off at first. You guys have this higher, or just for me because you know
We expected this to be a number one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No. We're gonna get to other scenes. I'm a little sorry there. I had some trouble with my internet, so that threw me off completely from the episode or from talking. But no, as far as things goes, I'm a big villain guy. Michael B. Jordan's one of my favorite actors. Black Panther was such an achievement, such like a monumental film at the time too. He had been debuted in Civil War, and once he got his own solo story, a year after, 2 years, came out 2018. It was just a big event as well. So just watching this film, watching the scene, and again, the dialogue, the taunting, is this your king? Is this your king? Super memeable. Nah, I'm your king, leading to him taking the throne. It's an incredible scene. So that is my number 5 for that reason.
Cool.
I mean, he's a villain. You can, as you watch the storyline, having just rewatched this recently, you really can relate to his, like his story, because he had it all taken away from him. He didn't know this world existed, but he sort of saw that sort of ship take off when he was little on the basketball court there, right? And he discovered all the possibilities that could have occurred, but it was taken away because of Forrest Whitaker.
And he was left. He was left without a family, a father.
Yeah.
And they left and they went back to their life.
Yeah.
So he's again a villain who much like Thanos, and again how Marvel kind of reinvented their villains at the halfway point, made them super determined and super empathetic. The Vulture and the empathetic villain Loki. He teeters the line as well too. But again, even Hela to an extent. But there's quite a bit of empathy, especially in Killmonger too.
Yeah.
That's a very comics thing to do too. Like if you look throughout especially Marvel comics, the villains always have a reason for them being villains, right? In the comics, you have they're not just monsters. There's always a reason why they became a villain in the first place. It's not pure evil. I mean, there's pure evil villains, but I mean, for the most part, Marvel villains, either something happened to them to turn them to evil, or they think that they're doing the right thing, a la Thanos, right? If you look at Thanos thinks he's the hero, right?
But that's the best thing about Killmonger too. He wants to do it because he knows how secluded Wakanda is, and that he knows that the black people in America can benefit from this technology. So that's what he's going to do.
He thinks what he's doing right. Yeah.
He's black militant. He says, I'm going to turn this on everybody else who held our people down.
Yeah.
So if you're, under the poverty line and you're black in America, you go, God damn, I can get down with that because they're all kings over there living with iPhone triple X's. They're way advanced and we have nothing. So again, it's one that you look at and go, shit, maybe that would be logical.
Well, I mean, he also went through the military and fought with the military. He, it was went the wrong direction as far as military goes, but he fought for his country and all the rest of that stuff. Like put in his time, put in the training and all the rest of that stuff.
Cool. Thanks. Sorry about that, but that was
no.
I think I should be better for later on. So
I think it's actually fitting that we kind of go to side by side or one after the other, because we're on sort of parallel ends of this. Not to say I don't like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I do enjoy it. But as Andrew knows, I did not watch them all in the theater. We did a rewatch, I guess it would have been a year and a half ago or so, where I went through them all. Like I had seen sporadic ones here and there. And then eventually we just said, okay, like we're going to power through these. Andrew, what do we do? Like two a night or something for like every weekend for like a few months or something. Yeah,
it was leading up to
Infinity War
and
Endgame. And so So I had only really seen them all for sure, like, once through. So when this came up, I went, oh no, I can't go through them all again right now. I don't have the time to do that. So I took a different view of this. I took it from a family standpoint. So my daughter hasn't seen any of these, and she's kind of wanted to. She kind of sat in when we put a couple on. Andrew, she saw a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and she wanted to watch, like Spider-Man and things. So basically, I decided what I was going to do was to make this reasonable and doable because they're so long and everything. I would just take it from the angle of Avengers. I knew Avengers are what I liked the most. You get to see sort of everybody in the Avengers. And I know some of the other films themselves are standalones. You can remove them anyways. So what I did was I said, I'm going to watch the 4 Avengers, to which point, after a conversation, we decided, 4.5 Avengers, right? We put Civil War in there. And so what wound up happening is she loved them so much that then we wound up watching Homecoming in there and Black Panther. So we wound up watching a good, 6 or 7 films. And that's what I'm pulling from. So to say these are my favorites from these films. There could be a better scene if I see it someday, but right now.
What's great about that is because that's probably the mainstream level of Marvel too, because there's so much. But what you did is you took like the main backbone, because to Disney and Marvel Studios, it was always the Avenger films. That's the biggest what we lead to. And then they started to plant. So Civil War is Avengers 2.5, and that movie introduces Black Panther, so he gets the branch from that
exactly,
and Spider-Man gets
Spider-Man too.
So that's why. So
Strange
that's why
is here, but Strange comes in. You're going from the middle and out, which is like.
So that's why when we did it, it was like, okay, I'll fill her in on a couple blanks here and there, but she doesn't need to know the whole gist, and then later we can go back. So basically, the way I decided to do this show too, and this is the reason I'm saying this, is I'm going to actually just go chronologically out of the 5 that I chose. So they're not necessarily best or whatever, so per se, but they kind of go in order and they sort of tell a story. Okay, so that's the purpose behind. So I'm going to just, having said that, I'll add clip 1 here, just get my sound adjusted here. And so this is obviously from the original Avengers 2012. And it's the we're going to need a perimeter scene. All right, so enjoy.
You already know what's happening here. You need men in these buildings. There are people inside, and they're going to be running right into the line of fire. You take them through the basement or through the subway. You keep them off the streets. I need a perimeter as far back as 39th. Why the hell should I take orders from you?
This movie is so magical, man. I saw this movie 7 times in theaters.
Man. I need men in those buildings.
So good.
Perimeter all the way down to 39th Street.
We're going to need a perimeter. So, I mean, for me, that was like the setup in, obviously the Avengers themselves are sort of meeting each other, but right there sort of establishes to me Cap as the leader there, and even the police sort of understanding that, they know what they're talking about. This is someone I should be listening to. Me being a police officer means nothing. There's aliens flying all over the place. And just that comical part, which is what sort of, Marvel is sprinkled with, like it drives home the point, but it's in a comical way, right? And so for me, that set up sort of my list, and that's why that's my number 5.
I'm glad you used a clip featuring Cap giving orders like that, because during the last trailer for Falcon and Winter Soldier I saw, I think Falcon, they're in a plane and Falcon's about to jump out, and Bucky is like, "Do we have a plan?" And Sam just jumps out. Seeing a scene like that is going to make me really miss Captain America, because he's that strategist who knows what to do when, the chips are down, kind of a thing. And not to really take a whole lot from Sam and Bucky, but, they have not been established as.
Well, they're still learning. They're still learning. I mean, they're very young heroes.
The show.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. But later on in that movie, and to your point, Matt, there's the power struggle between Iron Man and Cap, right? And you have the point where Tony, Iron Man, says, "Call it Cap." Because up until that point, they're like, "Okay, who's leading this? Is this Iron Man? Is this Cap?" And Iron Man realizes, okay, I don't have what Cap has as far as the strategic skills. Cap, you call it. And so then at that point, it's Cap's team. It's not Iron Man's
even
team.
says it in Age of Ultron too, when
right.
Colby Smulders comes and she's like, "You're the boss," and he's like, "He's the boss. I just make pay for everything, make everyone look cool." So
that's right.
AB,
Exactly.
take us 5.
All right. So Scott, you mentioned the arc from Iron Man to Spider-Man Far From Home. Spider-Man Far From Home is the last one last MCU moment we saw on screen. All my 5 are going to be I mean there's some fun stuff in here, but it's all moments that are fan service for me, basically. There's going to be a lot better scenes, I'm sure, but these are fan services.
It's amazing. That's what I want to see.
This is fan service for me.
You mean like moments you cheered when it happened? Is that what you mean?
100%. This is all stuff that popped for me.
I know
care less with anybody else. Yeah, and so we're gonna go for the very last.
This is a phenomenal choice. I'm so happy you have this on. I'm so happy.
Now, God. Was this mid credits or post credits?
No, this is
the ending.
This is the ending.
Yeah.
Never doing that again. Never doing that again.
About Zendaya being like the #1 actress in all of Hollywood since this movie wrapped.
Yeah, it's crazy.
She's like a mega star.
Yeah, same thing kind of happened to Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, exactly.
She actually had a following on a Disney show.
No, I know, but now she's getting she just came out with
ginormous. So for those who haven't seen this, this is at the end of the movie. We think Spider-Man has won. He's beaten Mysterio, and then this pops up on the video. Mysterio sends this into the news sources, and so you get this build up. You get this edited version, obviously, of the real events. And so you're like, oh crap, like what the heck? Mysterio's setting up Spider-Man as being the bad guy. And then this pops up and I lost my mind. I lost my mind. I literally jumped out of my seat and screamed in the theater. You got J.K. Simmons, who is born to play J. Jonah Jameson. And I actually love the turn that they made him into the Alex Jones kind of fringe, like lunatic journalist, as opposed to the Daily Bugle, because that's what the world we live in now. There is no Daily Bugle anymore. And then reveals that he's Peter Parker. and then credits roll. And so I just love that obviously it got a huge pop for me. With J. Jonah Jameson coming back, bringing them back to Spider-Man. He was the best thing, one of the best things of the original series of Spider-Man. The Tobey Maguire is one of my favorite things about it, because like I said, he embodies J. Jonah Jameson. He was born to play that role. It was Patrick Stewart as Professor X. He was born to play that role. And then there is J.K. Simmons was born to play J. Jonah Jameson. It's like, that's just fundamental. So
and he pulled the Judi Dench when they rebooted Bond, and she just carried over from Brosnan to Craig. Same thing, and you just don't. You're just like, that's who I want. I don't want John Malkovich as J. Jonah Jameson. I want nobody else as J. Jonah. And then we talked about too another Academy Award winner, just going back just in the MCU.
And so, like I said, that is my number 5 for that reason. That pretty much all 5 of these clips that I'm going to show today are all things that I literally was like, woo, like cheering in the theater and losing my mind. So that's my number 5.
J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson is amazing. He was perfect in the Maguire trilogy, so much so that they didn't even bother to cast him for the Andrew Garfield movies.
I've never even seen it. That was on my list of movies I'll never watch because
there's one scene in it where he gets an email from J. Jonah Jameson. It's like, need more pictures of Spider-Man, and he opens the email, and it's from J. Jonah, and I was just like,
that's lame. Yeah.
But he even spills over into The Simpsons. They have a J. Jonah type character, and it's voiced by J.K. Simmons.
No way, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that's fun.
So we'll move on to my number 5. My number 5 is similar to these in the sense of fandom or fan service, just things that made me pop. And in Captain America: Civil War, it was kind of obvious that this was going to happen because you saw the cast list and it's like, oh, this is great. All of these superheroes are going to fight each other and stuff. So when I saw Ant-Man, I was like, okay, are they going to do it?
Yes, they are.
So,
woo! This definitely got a pop out of me as well. Huge pop.
This is
Huge pop.
whole fight scene.
So yeah, Ant-Man jumps onto Rhodey's back there, fiddles with the wrist, and then we get the premiere of Giant Man.
Oh man!
And I had almost the same reaction as Spider-Man does here with his holy shit.
Nice.
Yes, and
I love that.
But yeah, I did cheer at this moment, and for the biggest reason why was, I mean, we talked about fan service, but it also reminded me of the Muppet movie when Animal becomes Giant.
Yeah.
That's what
totally
came to my mind when that scene happened, and I was just like, yes, this is just like that. And it's funny because there was, it was always just like, I think Lego or Funko released images of the toys coming out, and that kind of spoiled it for everybody.
It was a Lego.
Giant Man was going to be showing.
I think it was a Lego though, because I was big into podcasts in 15 and 16 and Collider and stuff. And I think you're right. I think I remember Lego. The Lego airport battle came with a Giant Man, and people went nuts.
And it was funny, or not funny. Peyton Reed was pissed off because he wanted Giant Man to premiere in the sequel to Ant-Man because that's something he was to direct.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because it was a thing that happened in the comics, in big moments. And it's funny because Ant-Man always seemed like a fringe character to me that would show up in the Avengers kind of big battles and stuff and would do fun stuff like that. And so that, like you said, got a huge pop out of me when he came Giant Man, because that was always a big deal in the comics. It was always a big deal when Giant Man went giant and, started taking people out. One of the other things I love in that scene too is him going on Hawkeye's arrow, Ant-Man on traveling on the arrow. Oh man! So yeah, Ant-Man for me,
he can write off a comic book cover.
Exactly. Yeah, it was like the Russos there are pulling stuff straight out of the comics, and I'm just like, oh, okay, eating it up. Please give me more stuff.
You could do from that air. Hell, I hope we're gonna talk about that. I'm sure a lot later. There's 20 things from that airport battle. That airport battle is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yes.
20 things from big scenes to face off to where you from, kid. Brooklyn, Queens. There's so much in that. It's unbelievable.
That whole scene. Yeah, so I was just gonna say that whole scene almost made my list, but it didn't.
I thought it might have
to be put later. But what I loved about that scene is obviously you get all of the. It's like when you play with your action figures; they're all fighting, right? But the dialogue throughout, Spider-Man fanboying and Ant-Man, like just Rudd and the things they're saying as they're fighting, you're thinking like, oh yeah, they have like an inner monologue going on while they're doing this, because some of them just met the other ones just now. Oh, who's that guy? And you just learn their powers and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Well, and then they're got Black Widow and Hawkeye squaring off, and we're like, are we still friends after this, right? And then Scarlet.
Yeah, it depends on how hard you hit me.
Yeah, exactly. And then Scarlet Witch is just going after Black Widow. You're pulling your punches, and you're like, this isn't. Like, I want to kill this guy. He's my friend. So it's fun. I love all that. I'm
going to swing it over only because I still want to continue the Civil War conversation, because my number 4 is Civil War. So I don't know if this is going to be a scene on anybody's list. This is I'm really excited to talk about this. I couldn't get this any higher, but this is a scene that's a little bit longer, and I had to find it in 2 different clips. So bear with me as I play it here, and I'm going to talk about why. But I think as far as the MCU franchise goes, this is without question one of the most powerful scenes. I got more probably up.
This almost made my list. I know I'm gonna guess what this is, and it was struggling to make it on my list, but I'm like, no, I'm gonna make it all fun and not too much emotion.
This scene isn't as fun at all, but we're gonna walk through it together, guys. And it's the final fight.
Yeah.
The end of Civil War.
I watched this like 5 times this week, trying to figure out how to make it on.
I don't care. He killed my mom. Unbelievable stuff here from Downey and Evans that I can't get enough of. So this is the climax and the battle of them going on, and this is everything you want to see from the end of Civil War and the fact that your heroes are fighting. And what I really want to spotlight is, I'm getting some buffering here, guys. That sucks. This shot I love too. They showed it in the trailer, but the wide shot, I love that the Russos didn't zoom in close, and it just shows the assault on Iron Man on there. One of the biggest things, short of after blowing off Bucky's arm here, that he does, that I audibly, much like AD, clapped in the theater for. And I saw this movie with Matt, maybe some of you guys as well too, but so this scene, more than anything in the MCU, the fact that they actually did the Civil War cover, the Civil War storyline was so incredibly important to me, and that's one of the ones that I kept my finger on the pulse to be able to do, and being able to actually see it. I remember hitting Matt and be like, "That's the actual cover of the comic book of the shot of them pushing." The other clip too, continuing at that scene, I just want to showcase it all. The fact that once they actually get into the fight. Once he changes up his fighting style to the point where Cap has Tony on his back and Tony rips his face mask off and ends the fight because he's done with it. It's incredibly violent to the point where Stark thinks he fears for his life. He gets his hands up. And then, as he's walking out with Bucky, after also that heartbreaking line of he was my friend, so was I. And then the other scene too, which I won't show too. And it's funny, we talked off camera. It became a parody. But when he stands up to Tony and says, "I can do this all day," highlighting from the original First Avenger, Captain America, the First Avenger film, I had chills from my neck to down to my body and they brought back that line from the first 8 minutes of the First Avenger film. And I'm like, I can't believe they brought that back where he's getting his ass beat. I could do this all day. And then he ends it off a dirty finish. And then all to the point where it culminates with Tony saying, "You don't deserve that shield. My father made that shield. You don't deserve it." And Cap, after all this, after the 2.5 hours of this film, and again, where there are, aside from the actual literal villain, but of the main cast and the superheroes, there's no heroes, there's no villains, no one's right, no one's wrong. They're just having an argument over policies and procedures, and it kind of becomes a Who Watches the Watchmen in a more figurative sense than the actual Watchmen film. But, Cap lays the shield down and he's done with it and he just walks out and he's done being Captain America in the sense of the word until, you're earned when he gets the return back with the shield and he embraces it again later on. But for that, just being an incredibly well-acted, well-deserved, and the scene right before you take everything to the next level with Infinity War. And like we said, Civil War is Avengers 2.5. But the fact that that's going to take things up and jumble it right before Infinity War kicks off, where our two biggest heroes, the two gems of the cornerstones of this franchise, are at very separate ends of the spectrum, not even on speaking terms at the start of the film, which plays in as a plot point, but because of how powerful that is, because of the callbacks to the original line from Captain America, because of Tony talking about Howard Stark, because he wants retribution for his mom. And again, he was my friend, so was I, where you're like, oh my God, they are, what's going on here? Who's right? Who's wrong? That's my number 4 easily.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a real power struggle too, because you're looking at Captain America, right? And he is the altruistic man where, Tony has his flaws. Tony has his more moral flaws. But you have Cap here who's fighting for his friend. But then you look at it from Tony's side too, as the Winter Soldier should come to justice, right? Even though he should be brought to justice, and Cap's allowing this, and so this is kind of a moralistic falter on Cap's part, because he's choosing his friend over justice, over what's right. And what's right is that Winter Soldier gets brought to justice, and so he's not doing that. He's he's bringing him into a fugitive. I wanted to say too what you said. He ends it, and Iron Man is fearing. He actually puts the shield into his reactor. With his reactor, which could have killed him, and will kill him if he's not attended to. So, like, in all intents and purposes, he did
And
do
the good thing is,
a more or less kill blow into
the good
him.
thing in anything is who. And then again, you know, you look at that, you go, oh, theoretical, because they do talk about it in the Avengers. Put on the suit, let's go a few rounds, and it's kind of a fun discussion on who would win a fight. And you see this, and this movie came out a few months after Batman v Superman, which again kind of handles a lot of the same stuff, but to a more very tepid, lukewarm sense of the culmination of this. But again, you look at this, and it gives you an answer, and it shows you on who would win the fight. But, you know, Bucky had to get that dirty finish, and it's like wrestling. Avi knows I'm a big wrestling fan, where Bucky gets in and distracts Stark, allowing Steve to get the win. And you're like, well, it wasn't a clean win. Stark would have finished it off. But again, so as far as fan service, and then again with a deep underline of like incredible storytelling and phenomenal acting, which the MCU, I think, gives in spades.
I love how they adapted it too, because in the comics, right, your Civil War is about the Mutant Registration Act, right? And so to adapt it into the Sokovia Accord, right, and using
the big one, where who was it in the book, Butterball or Thunderball or whatever, the
Thunderball, Thunderball, and so you have this idea of, you know, and government overreach, which we're living in now, right? We're living now in this time where everyone's screaming about government overreach, and that was the whole basis of Civil War in the comics, is this idea of it took it to a little step further, where it's all about like almost bringing into almost like a race thing, right? Where you have your mutants are now being rounded up and registered, hadn't been registered. But the way it was adapted for this was perfect, because you didn't need to go into all that. You go into you have all these superpowers, and they need to be under control.
Yeah, and the last thing I just want to piggyback off that, and we'll get down, is, but again, it just echoes through who I think has the best arc in all of film history is Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark. And you see him at the end of Iron Man 3, who wants to build suits around the world for globalization to monitor everything, because he knows he can. Then it goes wrong in Ultron, but he knows there has to be another way. He's fighting to get out and adjust society from his original thing. And that's it. He wants to go to the start of being monitored, and maybe it's not the worst thing in the world, but Steve, coming off his film, has seen that it can be corrupted and people have agendas. That's what happens when you lay these breadcrumbs from two different franchises and they bubble over in this. It's incredible goodness that you can theorize and write papers on. So again, as far as arc 2, same thing. The Tony Stark's whole arc just petering through the entire thing on what he's always wanted, straight as a through line.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Great.
Take us forward, Mike.
All right. On a lighter note, so we're gonna move to Age of Ultron. So going down, like I said, this scene not only gave me a chuckle, but it laid some groundwork for a scene later and even in other films. If the quote "It's a trick" means anything to you, I'm just gonna get my sound ready here.
Oh my God, I'm so happy.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
This is so fun.
But it's a trick.
Definitely.
It's much more than that. Whosoever be he, what is your haveth the power.
I'm so glad it's on your list, because it almost made mine, and it has my favorite single second in the MCU.
Oh, I know the second. It's the look.
In his face.
It's
We'll get
the
to
look.
that.
We'll get to it.
I don't know how he does it, man.
Please start by all means.
I love Hawkeye, by the way. I know,
man. Redder's so sick. Hawkeye's so important, man.
And I love this, the cockiness of Tony, and then later he gets War Machine to help him out. Come on, Rhodes.
Come on, represent.
I'm reinstating Prima Nocta.
And this, God bless him, Whedon. I mean, this movie was troubled from the get-go, but this is what Whedon really does well, man. And just having fun, like this whole bit. This is all so good, man.
Oh. Yeah, here it comes, Matt.
This is the best.
Yeah, just the look.
Look at him. Squeak.
And then it's kind of loud. This is where Hemsworth's timing is. Yeah. Nothing.
No. And I'll stop it there. I mean, it obviously goes on a little bit more. But what I love about that is it sets up, I mean, explains to those who don't know that sort of storyline of Mjolnir and and Thor explains it like you have to be worthy to lift it. But it makes it so much more powerful later on when you have Vision come along and he all of a sudden just grabs it and says, "Come on, let's go." And he hands it over to Thor and they all just look at each other like,
"Well, we'll talk about that later."
Yeah. Okay, there we go.
I mean, but even the concept of then films later on, right? You see that big moment, which may come up for somebody, I don't know.
We'll also talk about that later.
So that's why this scene, because of those scenes themselves are more powerful because of this one.
I want to go back
scene
to my scene as well too, because that's when I watched that and they got lucky. But the reason I take now is retcon or whatever is that Steve was worthy, but because the year before this, he found out about the secret about the Winter Soldier killing Stark's parents.
Bingo.
So that's why it doesn't move for him.
Yes,
but
yeah. And then later,
Civil War, and he goes through his arc that he's ultimately redeemed, and Mjolnir is proved worthy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Whedon meant that, if that was Feige's plan. I'm sure he would admit and say it was. But either way, it's the most happiest accident in all of film because
they made it work.
Back that, and he was worthy. He found out, and he was holding the secret. Told the secret, went through his cleansing, came back, and then was the ultimate worthy. Well, so it makes the scene that much sweeter.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by the and when I was talking about your scene there, Cap's he was altruistic, but he had his moral falling out there. He had his moment where he fell out in there, where he didn't do the right thing. So that you're right. That's what's
he could have told Stark effectively leading up to that. But again, it's why it's the best franchise of all time, guys.
There's my 4, Andrew. What you got?
All right, we're gonna keep talking about Cat. Scott sniffed this one out. He was like, "Okay, I know this one is gonna thing." This one has a lot to do with who's involved for me. I just love this scene. This scene is insane.
This scene was so
I'm gonna start it a little late into it, but Cap is in the elevator with a bunch of dudes. He's there with my guy Frank Grillo, who's Crossbones there, and so he's kind of noticed. I love it because he's kind of looking around, and you see Cap noticing a few things. He looks over at this guy, notices he's sweating. He's like, "Why is this dude sweating?" You can see him on there. And
Russo's understood Captain America better than anyone.
Yeah, and so then this is the best. You get these two beefcakes come on here, and he's like, "Okay, okay, all right, I see what's going on here." And it's got one of my favorite lines.
Oh.
As soon as the door closes.
Say it, AB.
No, I'll let him do it. Can you hear it?
Oh, a little quiet.
Does anybody want to get out?
Yeah. And so at that point, they're like, okay, he knows what's going on.
And you know what's amazing? The guy with the long hair who turns the striker stick over, he popped up as a head of security villain on Power on Stars when I watched it last year, and I was like, oh my god, I feel like this guy is on like Hydra,
Hydra's everywhere, man.
And that's what he is. And that guy's in it too. So Hail Hydra.
I just love this. I love this scene because you're talking about the close contact. It is about as close contact as you possibly can get. There's no room for moving. You're literally stuck in this elevator with a whole bunch of dudes, and it just shows Cap's skills as a fighter in this thing against a bunch of trained fighting dudes. Like these are not just a bunch of like moron guys. You got Crossbones here, who is a real badass, and
nothing personal, Cap.
He gets a bunch of shots in on him too. I love these shots he gets in on him because I'm like. Again, it shows that Crossbones is not is no slouch.
Show it. Right? Show the kick up.
Boom! Oh yeah, I love that. He kicks. I love that. I love the kick off of the kick off there. And so I'll stop it there.
Yeah. No, I just saw that obviously in a different form watching when they replayed that scene when they had to go back, in time and everything, and then that same scene where then instead of saying your line there, he says "Hail Hydra," Hail Hydra, right? And then to not set off that fight,
which is pop worthy as well because which is pop worthy in itself because a year before that, that was a storyline where Cap is undercover and he says Hail Hydra and the internet went nuts.
Yeah,
and the fact that, again, if that was a happy accident or if they meant to do that, that was amazing. But yeah, so they referenced that as well too. So
well, and that's also a reference to the comics because
that's what
in
I
the
just said, the year
comics,
before.
sorry, no,
Yeah.
but there's that's a big huge storyline for sure.
Now we went from action-packed scene to one that's going to be a little less in a certain way. My moment is from Doctor Strange. Now, at the end of the movie, at the end of most Marvel movies, there's a huge fight in a city, which kind of reduces the city to crumbles, essentially. In Doctor Strange, the reverse happens. The fight happens, but since he turns on the time stone, the city rebuilds itself as the fight goes on, which is unique in itself. And then at a certain point, Caecilius tells Doctor Strange, you can't win this. The dark dimension is coming where time doesn't matter. So that gives Strange the idea to fly up into the dark dimension and confront Dormammu himself.
Awesome.
And this scene is essentially, this is what I guess you'd call what a Doctor Strange fight scene really looks like. Earlier in the movie, he accidentally, while defending himself, kills one of Caecilius's followers. And he's, upset about that because he's a doctor. That's against, the Hippocratic oath of do no harm. So from that moment on, he's very much, if I'm going to fight, it's going to be very pacifistic. So he does that, and it's the best example is here, where he shows up to Dormammu. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. Dormammu says, you've come here to die, and takes him out. Tries to defend himself. Doesn't work. He's overpowered. This is a fight that obviously Doctor Strange can't win, fist to fist. So he has to use his mind. He's got to, think of a.
He's basically fighting a god.
Yes,
he's fighting a god.
Time goes back. Swirls the time stone magic around his wrist.
So I guess we just have to assume
Dormammu,
he hasn't said
on the bargain.
If he dies, it's this moment back, like Groundhog Day style.
Yeah.
Because when I first saw this, I was like, how is he dead and resetting it? But I guess he just kind of.
It's a time loop.
Like to that moment. If I die, take me to this moment.
Yeah, exactly. It's a save point.
Yeah.
Where he respawns.
yeah, you're absolutely right.
And so he comes back over and over again, and Dormammu's like, "What's going on here?" And over the course of, there's no real concrete version of how much time is passing, but he essentially says to Dormammu, "We're in this time loop together, and here you're my prisoner," and essentially convinces Dormammu to, remove Caecilius from Earth, do with him what you will, but you have to leave the Earth alone, and I'll let you go. He's essentially, like AB said, this guy's a god, essentially, and Doctor Strange has the power to trap a god, and he's not having that, so he's like, fine, release me, and I'll kill Caecilius for you, and that's pretty much how the movie ends there.
Yeah, like you said, he doesn't have the power to do it, fight him physically, fight the power, and so he has to figure out some other way to do it, and that's the way he figures out when that's how Doctor Strange, and you see later on how that comes into play too, where he figures out the one way to beat Thanos, right? And so he's using that thing, and so what I liked about that scene is that like Tony Stark, and Tony Stark and Doctor Strange are very similar in that they're cocky, arrogant jerks who basically only care about themselves at the beginning, right? And so you have Doctor Strange, who's this like hotshot surgeon who really only cares about himself. He cares a little bit about Rachel McAdams, but not really. But he's willing to spend eternity trapping Dormammu. And like Matt said, we don't know how long he's there. He's could be there for 1,000 years. You don't know. And later on, you see him witnessing millions and millions of alternate universes, and we don't know how long that takes. So he's willing to put in that time, right? He's willing to sacrifice it. He's willing to sacrifice that. So it's like, I love that story arc too. That, you know, that he goes from this douchebag to like, okay, I'm willing to put myself in this position for eternity, for humanity.
We've talked. It's funny you say too the comparisons to him and Stark. I've said this story probably before too. I'll say it one more time. It's so funny because Marcus and McFeely, when they wrote Infinity War, they were like, okay, we got our whiteboard. We're going to put our teams and who's going to go. And they're like, the first thing they said is like, we know we're going to separate Downey, Stark, and Cumberbatch is Strange, and they're going to go off on different adventures because they're way too similar. So when you have two similar characters, it's not going to make for that much of a dynamic. And then I remember they were saying as they were writing the script, they were like, you know what? Strange and Stark here would be incredible in the fact that they're both so similar that they'd be snarky and they would come. So they crumpled, rewrote the teams and put them together because then that helps both of their arcs more. If they're both like in it for themselves, it makes it sweeter when they partner up. And that's the same point. You see it where they have a little moment in Endgame as well too with the one, and they have that little bond, and it's also fun because they're both Sherlocks as well too. So that's more of a sub. This franchise just keeps giving. And so it is funny that you say that because I know that they were like, they're way too similar. We can't have them together, but they're so good together.
But it's like, in ways like that, it's like who better to sort of counterbalance or counteract that snarkiness, that self-centeredness than someone else who sees it. So they, you know, no one else can compete with it. So they can.
You get the cauldron stuff when he slaps them off. Like, you wouldn't have that with anybody else except two people that were the same.
So I like that for sure.
Cool. So I'm going to go, my number 3 used to be my number 1. I wanted to get it on just because of how special the moment was, how incredible it was when it came out. And it's from 2012's The Avengers. And it's the biggest scene from the movie, I'd say, for my money. Like I said, I saw this movie 7 times in theaters. I argued with people who disagreed with me on how a certain character is able to hone his powers at this opportune time. I gave a bunch of excuses and reasons, but ultimately, because it's unbelievable, and it's when Ruffalo returns to assist with the battle.
Who was arguing against this?
Jim Hogan.
Oh.
It's time for you to get angry. That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry. That was, without question, for a hot minute, my favorite line in the movie ever.
It was great.
I'm always angry.
Great.
The fact that he accepts, which again ties in perfectly to Endgame, where they fuse together. Hold on. You get Stark firing there. They're finally working together, shielding each other. They all have something together, and culminating in, which is the definition of iconic.
Yeah, this is great.
The battle's ready.
There we go.
And you have the iconic sitting shot. There's nothing.
Now, to jump ahead a little bit, the 360 shot is on my list.
What's up? What do you want to talk about?
It should be.
Yeah. I guess I'll briefly just talk about it's. I mean, this scene where I'm up to there. How many movies were it before that?
This was the 5th movie. There were 6 movies. There was Iron Man 1, 2, 4, Cap. So this was the 5th movie.
So this is the 5th movie?
Yes.
Okay. So the 4 movies leading up, I mean, it was all essentially leading up to that moment. All of these superheroes that you've seen through these 4 movies together in that amazing shot, 5, 6, however many. And it was after when I saw that and then that movie, I was just like, okay, I almost thought, okay, they can end it here and there may not be too many complaints. This is where it was supposed to be leading. We just saw this epic battle of our favorite superheroes together, fighting some aliens, saving the world. Tony brings a nuke into space. What's going to top that? It made at least $1 billion, if not 2.
It was the highest opening weekend too for 3 years until Jurassic Park. And I remember V's as big of Avengers fan as I am, and we were like, "Man, Jurassic World has the highest opening weekend. That sucks."
Yeah, but throughout that movie, that 360
so this is on
shot.
your list. What number is this?
Oh, I'll mention it as it goes by, but yeah, that's definitely on my list.
That's what I said. It was by far. I can't tell you how many times I quoted "I'm always angry." I remember there was one time at volleyball, people were like, "How do you do that?" Like I got up for a spike, and I remember this summer I was playing volleyball, and someone's like, "Man, that was awesome." I'm like, "That's my secret. I'm always angry," and I was like, "This is perfect. This line is unbelievable." Just the fact the team's together and it sets up the final battle too as well. So same thing, the spinning shot, and that was my number one for the longest time until recently. I have two other scenes.
Well,
but we'll
when that music kicks in, how do you not get the goosebumps?
And Whedon replaces him with Elfman, and Elfman's score in Ultron drives me nuts. And then Silvestri's, and like we've talked about, I think Alan Silvestri's The Avengers is my favorite soundtrack of all time. I listened to the 2012's Avengers from beginning to end. It is a nice, tight, like 55, 60 minutes or so of like incredible stuff. And whereas the Infinity War and Endgame are close to 2 hours, so you can't always listen to the minute. But that's such a nice, jam-packed score. So,
yeah. All right, so down to me, I guess, number 3 here. So I had alluded to this earlier that I think it was Matt's the Civil War fight there. Almost made it onto my list, but I found as I watched the film, the more films throughout, that this for me was sort of a cheat way. This is a cheat way to kind of get both Spider-Man Homecoming and Civil War in. So what we're talking about here is the video log, the vlog,
amazing
of Peter Parker.
Favreau check performance in this documentary.
Oh my gosh, yes. And just before I hit play here, now this is a long. I'm not going to show this whole clip. I've fine tuned it. But when it played, I loved this so much because I was able to say to my daughter, like, you see why we had to watch Civil War now, you know, and then it's because it starts this film out, right? It starts out Homecoming, and it's such a good recap of what happened for those who forget, and just a really cool alternate view. So I'm just gonna play it here, but I love this. I got to change my sound. Sorry.
Or what I'm doing? Something about Captain America.
No one's told me why I'm in Berlin.
This is you. We're not roommates. You got this.
Well, it's a great snapshot too of what a teenager of now would do.
Absolutely.
Right? Oh, please. My room is way bigger than I found a kiss.
Oh, his dialogue is spot on.
Minor upgrade. Oh my god.
Put it on.
This is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Let's go.
Well, I don't understand. Is it for me? Happy.
You're walking out.
Yeah, Happy's the best.
Look at this thing. Look at the eyes. That's a great day, my life.
Let's go.
Okay.
And that's so great because that suit comes back later, the original one, and it's awesome. So, man, it's just that's my cue.
I just love this.
That's great.
Yep. Behind the scenes, weird angles.
Well, that's a thing to the comics too, where he would set up his camera in the comics. He set up his camera to take pictures of himself, right?
And I just love that.
This is great, Favreau right here.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to end it after Favreau.
We have thin walls here.
And I like that transition. I just want to say where he's filming and then Downey pulls it down and it cuts the aspect ratio to the actual film, and you're just like, that's great.
Yeah, and like just that was so genius. I thought showing that and getting to it's almost like a previously on, you know what I mean? But from the angle, like Andrew said, of the teen and how he would talk through it, and I just loved him fanboying through the fights. Like, oh my gosh, oh he's big now. Like just all these weird thoughts that we're thinking as we were watching that originally. And so that's my way to sneak in 2 films in one. That's my number 3.
I think that to me is the reason why I like. I think Tom Holland's the best Spider-Man because he makes the best Peter Parker along with the Spider-Man, right? You got Tobey Maguire, who seemed like an adult Peter Parker, and saying I haven't watched the other Andrew Garfield one, but
is an Abercrombie model as Peter Parker.
Yeah, and so it's not you don't have this like dorky teenager
Honest Trailers does the best thing that I still laugh at. Where they're like, it shows Garfield skateboarding, and they're like, Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker is your handsome, super cool, muscular, hip loser.
Yeah.
That's like they make him like hot in the Amazing Spider-Man.
Which is like totally the antithesis of what Peter Parker is all about. Peter Parker is supposed to be this dork that you're like secretly cheering for, but everyone else thinks is a loser, and it has the duality of everyone is idolizing Spider-Man and everyone hates Peter Parker because he's a dork, and they're the same person, right? And so like that's what makes.
I will say this, that I asked my daughter after watching all 7 of these, and they said, okay, so who is your favorite, right? Who is your favorite? I expected the answer to either be one of the big guys or like Black Panther, right? It was Spider-Man. It was easy. She didn't hesitate. She said, Spider-Man, he's my favorite. I want to watch the next one.
Spider-Man is the most popular and just universally.
Yeah. Yeah, but she had no like back history of it, hasn't watched any other Spider-Man anything. So it kind of shows in this particular scenario how well he does add it.
Have you shown her into the
No,
Spider-Verse?
I haven't done either of the others yet. I'm going to. It was like I wanted to do all this first. So yeah, I like it. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh man, she's gonna lose her mind then.
Yeah.
Multiple Spider-Mans.
Going back to the Spider-Man stuff, there's my favorite part. It kind of fits in the sense that teenagers, they can't do anything without filming it. But in the high school, they have their own little news show.
Yeah.
And which Betty Brant hosts, and it's got like bad green screen and bad editing and everything.
Yes,
it brought me right back to my own high school days because I helped start our little news thing.
That's awesome.
And it was amazing when they did that. It made me laugh.
There's a lot of honorable mentions. We're already long here. We still got to give time to 2 and 1, but the school news, that's a great shout out. I didn't even think about that, but the one from Far From Home when they're talking and they're recapping on the blip, and it starts with and I'll always love you, and they're going through I was like, this is the greatest way I've ever seen a film start.
But they have the photos from Google that have watermarks all over it.
Yeah. So good.
Maybe what do you got?
Copyright.
All right, my number 3, we already alluded to, and I love that Mike put that earlier scene in with Mjolnir because it brings it to this scene. And I'm gonna basically play most of the scene here, and it speaks for itself. You got the dual wields with Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. You got the team up with Iron Man.
Oh my gosh,
amazing! Yes. And then boom, it gets tossed to the side there. And you get this moment where you get Cap coming in here.
Clap moment in film. Like, I say that hyperbole, but like, I didn't include this. We'll get to, but good Lord, this scene there's no better stand and scream and like shout LFG at a screen than this.
And so you got Thor here, who's basically down and out, about to be killed by a Stormbreaker, his own weapon. And then you have the moment, and this is another again where literally the entire theater, I saw this opening night with like a theater full of nerds, and the entire theater lost their minds as this happened. And again, straight out of the comics. There's another straight out of the comics moment where
I knew it.
Yeah.
Oh, this is unbelievable. And how using the shield as the prop and hitting it back.
Yes.
This right here.
Yeah, so good. And then using the Thor and using that. I mean, that was a huge pop right there. Is using the lightning.
Yeah.
Calling down the lightning, because it's not just about using Mjolnir. It's not about using Mjolnir. It's about basically becoming the god of lightning, the god of thunder. Right?
Shall possess the power of Thor.
Yeah,
that's right. And so he has the power. He has the power of Thor. It's not just about wielding the weapon. It is about he has the power of a god.
What's really funny about that specifically too? I always, and I might be the only one, but the scene when they argue at the start of Endgame when Stark's like, he takes off his chest piece and he's like, you take this, you put this on and you hide, and he puts it in Steve's hands. I'm always like, man, Steve has the Cap suit. He's like pretty unbeatable if he actually used that. And he's got Milner. So through the course of the film, Steve accumulates Tony's like nanotech and Milner. I'm like, unstoppable if you were to use it all.
Well, and that goes to his altruistic altruistic thing that he has all this power. He has this power to wield, and he doesn't use it selfishly. He only uses it when he has to. And in this point, right? This is when he absolutely has to use that moment, because otherwise, Thanos is about to kill Thor, and so that's the time to use it, and that's the time to think.
I like later on when they're fighting, and then Thor's like, no, I get the big one, and then he gives
which gives him new haircut, copied my beard, and like they have those little moments.
So that again, that got like the entire theater lost their minds at that, obviously, rightfully so.
Yeah, and he picks up and uses the hammer more than once, and every time he uses it, there's goosebumps.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, he's got the suitcase of stones and the hammer, because he has to bring that back in time. It's laying on the ground at that point. He just picks it up. I was like, he can still do it. Goosebumps.
Yeah.
He's just picking it up to go travel, and he's like, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And to continue the conversation of Memez and who can lift it.
Oh man!
Like I said earlier,
that's amazing.
My number 3 is, the bookending scene to the scene earlier where they were all trying to lift it themselves, and later on they create Vision, and he has he already turned? I think, and he sees it at one point. You see it on the ground, on the ground, and he's talking about how they're going to defeat Ultron, or why they're going to defeat Ultron, and he turns, he looks.
And I guess
there's no way for me to think you can trust me, except I saw this in theaters. When I saw this in theaters, air left. Everyone just sucked up in gasp.
So anyway, I heard gasps too in mine. Maybe we were in the same one, but I there was gasps at my theater.
I love that too. That Thor's like, okay, I'm good.
Because
let's go.
He could have used it. But he handed it to him.
That's right,
and that's
he also knows. He also knows what that means.
Yeah.
He's 100% knows. Like, I know what's involved in this. So I'm good. Like, we're good here.
Through Thor and Vision stuff, but when Thor's the catalyst, he brings the thunder to finish the project essentially, because he had his vision is the main thing. So he was already knew about the benefits, and then once Vision comes out and he's a meld of Stark and the fact that he is worthy, I'm good. Let's go.
Let's go.
And I think that was the rest of the team needed too.
Later in the big battle, Viz uses it to whack off to smack one of the Ultron robots. He offed one of the Ultron bots, and so he can use it. He can lift it up and swing it, but he doesn't possess the power of Thor, which leads us into the discussion at the end of the movie. Is like, is he really worthy? Because he's not technically human. They bring up the point. They bring up the point. You put the hammer on an elevator. Elevator goes up.
Yeah.
It didn't really lift it.
Yeah.
See, that's good Whedon. I just rewatched Justice League. That's bad Whedon. This is still like semi-good Whedon.
Yeah.
Solid. So number two.
Here we go.
We're getting into the big stuff, guys. So if you guys want to talk, we can figure out. We can call a fly. I don't know how everybody wants to showcase. My number 2 is probably quite biggest. One of the biggest bombastic scenes in the MCU. And if anybody has it as their number 1, we can talk about it or save it. But it's Portals, guys.
Oh, that's awesome. Yep. I did not put it on. I'm glad you did.
Nope.
Yeah. Everything about this scene leading up.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes, from Cap going, staring down, tightening the shield, all that, taking on the entire army themselves. That shot, the wide shot too. I didn't show this, but the fact that once they all come back, and then even starting with Sam's on your left.
Yep.
Yes.
All that comes out.
That's my favorite part of this moment is Sam coming in on your left and the portals begin to open.
Yep.
The fact that they're opening up, and then you can see this, and you can watch it every time, and you see more and more people. You see Howard the Duck, you see Meek, you see all the Sorcerer Supremes, and lots of others you don't know that you might meet later. You see the Wasp, Howard the Duck's back there. Literally anybody who has ever appeared in an MCU film got Ultron in a suit. Is that everyone? What, you wanted more?
Yeah.
And you get more.
Yeah.
I remember like, oh my god, guys, we have an hour left. We're gonna get an hour fight scene, and it's going to be cinematic incredibleness. The fact with Sylvester's score here, this is probably one of my favorite scores of all time, singular songs. I've listened to Portals probably 500 times in the last 2 years. At the gym, I can lift 500 pounds if I listen.
Here we go. Here we go. Well, hold on.
He finally has a concerned look on his face. Thanos. Goosebumps.
Assemble.
And I love Thor every time.
We have literally been waiting 21 films or 20 films for that moment for him to say Avengers Assemble. We've been literally
thing about Feige. Feige knows how to hold it off. He knows how to hold off the hammer pickup. He knows at the end of Age of Ultron, Avengers, and it ends, and you're like laughing. No, but it's fun. And then again, you see this, and he says it: Avengers Assemble, and they're all there. Everyone's there, and you're just like, oh my god, this is unbelievable. And then the fight goes, and again, that scene itself is cinematic brilliance. It's designed. That's not even to say how it weaves and intricate through the entire rest of the battle, where you see Giant Man's foot come and Spider-Man flies under it. That is unbelievable achievement in film. But like I said, I don't know if anybody has Portals as their number one. It could be. I mean, it's a 50 out of 10 as far as the scene goes. I think I could stack 20 scenes right now. The 20 scene is still a 10. This just gets the benefit of being a 50 out of 10. And just for the payoff for that it led to, that it is everyone that the behind the scenes of the filming of this scene is chill inducing. There's all these megastars, Academy Award winners. They're all in this. There's like 25 Academy Award winners in this scene. And you're just like, these are all the biggest stars on the planet who have cleared their schedules and united to shoot this scene. This is outstanding. And again, throughout the battle, there's 50 other scenes I can say within this, between little things to big things, between Brie Larson's Captain Marvel coming to even the fight, to T'Challa going to Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye saying, Clint, pass it to me, which is payoff alone from my name's Clint, I don't care, from Civil War. So if you watch these movies 50 times, you can pick up little things like that. So Portals, the Sylvester score, everyone coming back, and then that it kicks off the third act. This movie is perfectly split. This is literally the 2 hour mark, meaning that there's 1 hour left. And knowing that you have an hour left, you're just look away. I dare you. I dare you to not watch when this is on. So my number 2 is Portals.
That's great. I'm glad. I figured it was going to make your list, so I didn't put it on mine.
Right.
So I'm glad
I was really hoping it would show up because it was going to be on my list.
Portals.
It was going to be on my list, but when I watched it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have that 360 shot, which is essentially the same thing, just on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
And the premiere of Giant Man, which again in this scene is a bigger scale. And so I was like, I have those two, so I can't do it again.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, how do you not get goosebumps? This movie gives them to you everywhere, but that scene, and like you said, from hearing him, sort of on your left, and then you watch them all come out, and like Scott said, it's really you. It's like a Where's Waldo? There's that. Oh, and then and like what?
And then
like I'm pointing him out.
Yeah. The one thing, and then you look, you're like, where's Sean Gunn, who plays Kraglin? And then you find out that he's on a ship too. And they had little like Stallone's Cruise people. I don't know if he was in it, but like the other people from the end of Guardians 2, they put them in. Now, I don't know if it was Miley Cyrus herself, but you see all that. You're like, this is incredible. I told AB, I'm like, I would have liked if you could have gotten Bernthal's Punisher and Cox's Daredevil.
Oh, yeah.
They have other plans. They have other plans for those guys down the road.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. coming back.
Yes.
Olsen was there and he gave a little nod to Stark, and Stark was like, what? You could have. But again, like I said, that takes it from a 50 to a 60. But it's still one of the things I've ever seen.
Solid.
That gives us. I mean, that gives us more to cheer for later, right? We're going to get those apparently within the next little while. We're going to start. They're going to start peppering them in, and so I can't wait for those moments when they start peppering those guys in. And I mean, from what we understand, we're going to get there. Matt Murdock, and Like I don't want a Daredevil cameo in Spider-Man. I want the Matt Murdock cameo in Spider-Man, where
he's going to need a lawyer.
He's going to need a lawyer, and who better? You don't need to, like, obviously the fans will know. Obviously, fans know who Matt Murdock is. You don't need to spell it out for everyone. This is your lawyer.
This is the franchise that introduced T'Challa, gave us his backstory, and Spider-Man in Civil War, and they both got served well with no prior stuff in the MCU.
That's right. So man, again, Feige setting stuff up. I trust in him. How he's going to start rolling it out. Yeah, start rolling this stuff out. Just give it to me. Keep giving it to me.
Yeah. Okay, I am HARD right now. Mike, what do you got for 2?
So again, I was just following along through the chronological order. So we're going to go back a little from your film. We're going to go to Infinity War here. And what I loved about both of these movies, Infinity War and Endgame, and I guess Civil War as well, is sort of the meeting of the different characters, right? Because you knew they were all going to be in the film, but how would they run into each other? How would they interact? What would they say when they ran into each other? So for me, in Infinity War, one of my favorites, this is a lighthearted scene where you have the Guardians introduced to Tony and to Spider-Man and such. So let me just
so good,
awesome.
Guys.
Awesome.
Oh my god. What do you want me to say? Jesus?
Find out how many eggs in my chest or something, and I eat one of you, I'm sorry.
I do not want another single pop culture reference out of you for the rest of the trip. You understand?
I'm trying to say that something is coming.
This is all for Drax, by the way. But
amazing.
Death Cape.
I know this is like pure comic book fashion, right? You have a misunderstanding where you have a bunch of superheroes fighting, and they're like, "Wait a second, why are we fighting? Who are you?"
Yeah. Please don't put your eggs in me.
This is exactly, you're right, where they come together. Yeah.
This is literally what happens in comics constantly. It's like, who are you? Why are we fighting?
Exactly. This is the best.
I'm gonna ask you this one time. Where is Gamora? Yeah, I'll do you one better. Who's Gamora? I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora?
Oh my gosh.
You're Thor's friends. Thor, yeah, we know him. Tall guy, not that good looking.
Yes. So I love, not only are you meeting, all of these characters are meeting at once in, like Andrew said, in this weird battle where they realize, like, kind of like, oops, I guess we're together. But talk about a way for Drax to sort of introduce himself, right? With the dumbest thing he could possibly say, and they're just like, what? And then they're like, oh, I guess, yeah, we're all after Thanos. But like for me,
I love he bursts in and is like, Thanos, and we're like, what? Where?
Well, that's his thing, right? He's constantly doing that, right? You just can't hold them back. But anyways, I was really curious how they would have the Guardians meet the others and how they would interest. And I love later, like you said, the whole Thor and Star-Lord, and they're like, we know who's in charge, and like that whole dynamic.
Wink. Man, so there was all the rumors that he wasn't going to be in the next Guardians, and they weren't going to carry him on. They've already tossed that out, right?
Guardians are in Love and Thunder.
Yes,
Brad just wrapped yesterday. It was his last day of shooting, so he's in it quite a bit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, and that's in they literally have the comics right now as Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. Why would you not?
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Why would you not have that? Because it's they're so perfect together. They had such good chemistry in those movies. That's why why would you not like carry that on?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I want to see that. I want to see that adventure. I want to see those.
Absolutely. So obviously not a big scene, but one that just it was a takeaway for me, like, this is fantastic. And I mean, I could have put Drax. I've mastered the art. I was eating the chips there, right, not moving. Could have put any of those. But like this one to me is just more like, who's this guy? Yeah. But anyway, so that's my number. That was my number 2.
Excellent.
I just want to jump on the line that Scott talked about. where you snipped it off, where they were talking about you guys know Thor, and what is the line? Yeah, tall guy, not that good looking.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a self-referential for the Russo brothers because they use the same thing in one of the paintball episodes of Community.
Oh yeah,
with where Joel McHale and Josh Holloway are sizing each other up the whole time.
Yeah,
and
true.
when that happened, I was like, oh, I got it.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Fantastic.
All right. I'm going. So a few episodes ago, we did our needle drop moment, and so this was trying to make it onto my needle drop moment. And I knew MCU moments was coming up, and I'm like, no, I'm going to save it for that. As much as this is perfect for this category, this is even more perfect for this other category that we're doing because it is literally about the MCU. And so I was going to put the whole speech that leads up to it, but just for time's sake, I'm not going to lead it. I'm going to go from the end of that. And so I'm talking about Thor Ragnarok, and Thor is basically at this point been beaten by Hela. She's basically taken out his eye, destroyed Mjolnir, and he is down and out. It looks like she's going to win, and he goes on to this like vision with his father and sees his father. His father gives him a speech. He says, "You're stronger. I'm not as strong as you," and he said, "I'm strong. You're stronger." And so the only thing I'll talk about it afterwards. But you come back to this, and you come back to Hela. And you see he gets his powers back. Uh-oh, he's got his powers back. What are you going to do now? Zap. She gets tossed.
Yeah, I need to go back and watch this.
And then here we go. And here we go. I'm turning it up. Boys.
Yeah, do it.
The only drawback is I wish that Wakiti hadn't used this song earlier in the film. He uses it earlier in the film. I wish he had only used it in this moment. Sure. This is perfect. This is an absolute perfect needle drop of Led Zeppelin Immigrant Song, which is literally about the Norse gods. It's literally about
that's unbelievable.
The mythology of the Norse gods, and so it is built for this.
Valkyrie right here.
Valkyrie is so
scintillating, melting the screen.
It's so hot right here. It's like, oh man, badass. And again, right. You have everything here. You got Hulk fighting the wolf. You got Loki getting in on it.
I'm rewatching it this weekend. You've convinced me.
Oh man, wasn't that? This movie's a 10 too. This is in my top 4
or 5 favorite
MCU films.
Oh, and I love it. Here we go. I love this right here. This moment here. Boom, boom, boom. Oh man. All right, I'll stop it there. It goes on for a lot more. You got Carl Urban there with who was it? Destroy.
Desmond Troy.
Desmond Troy, yeah.
His machine guns.
Yeah. Oh man, it's a dynamite scene. That obviously Thor is my favorite out of all the Thor movies, but it is for me is just a gem right from the start to finish, and that ending, that whole ending is just unbelievable. Right from the moment of that speech that his father gives him, basically telling him he is again worthy, that he's going to get his powers back, and that he is able to do this. And
I want to piggyback off that speech only because this is high on my list, and I think we talked, and I know you coyly said it was on yours, so I'm glad I took it off. We can talk about other things. That it's an incredible scene, to the point which I just wanted to showcase the one line with Hopkins when he's like, "I don't have my hammer," and he just plainly, like a father, just, "Are you Thor, god of hammers?" And it's like a laugh joke. I know some people laughed at that, but I was like, man, that's an incredible line when you think about it, because he's not. Because he's the god of effing thunder, and that's exactly what it ties in exclamation mark wise. And I love. I'm a mark for like little subtle scenes, and I love Loki's smile once he finally knows. He's like, oh, okay, my brother is finally unlocked and achieved like god mode status, to pardon the pun. But the fact that they have such an incredible relationship through that film, and like the what they go through together as brothers unbelievable into itself. But the fact, that he gives a smile where he knows he's like, okay, my brother, the true king of Asgard, is here, and he's ready to like throw hands with anyone who tests him.
Yeah.
And you're not going to throw hands with Thor and win. So
I just want to jump on when you said you didn't like that Taika Waititi used it earlier in the movie because he's held hostage, and then he calls the hammer, hits his hands, and the music starts. And I want to agree because that kind of ruined afterwards, and each time twice at the end of Endgame when he grabs the hammer, I was like, dun, 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 dun. I was like, the music's gonna hit, right? Because I figured like every time somebody grabs that hammer, that's when that's the cue to drop the needle for that song.
Yeah, it was just a little too much. He like it was too much of a good thing. Like I got into it when it played earlier. I was like, oh, that's fun, Immigrant Song to with Thor and the whole thing. But then it's used so much, 1,000 times better in this scene. And so much more fitting. Like it's like, oh, you couldn't use another song, or you couldn't do another thing there earlier. It just kind of takes away from that power of that needle drop, but it's still effective. So especially when you watch it on its own, it's like, oh man, that is so good. Especially with the visuals, with the lightning and the sky. Oh man, love it. Number 2.
Okay. I'm going to take this time to say that 360 shot from Avengers is my number 1.
Oh,
so
okay,
was my number 1. So I'll finish number 2 spot, and then number 1 will end with AB.
Okay.
So and this scene could be just as close as number 1. That's why it's number 2. When they went into production for Iron Man, there's a lot of doubt. Especially with Kevin Feige just got in charge of the studio, and all of their big Spider-Man was at Sony, X-Men was at Fox, Fantastic Four was at Fox. It's like, so who do we have left to make a movie about? Like, well, Iron Man's been in development for a while. Let's do that one. And he's kind of like, for a long time, was considered like a B level character. A whole lot of people didn't really care about Iron Man. I was not one of those people because I watched the Iron Man animated series. So I was like, I was ready for an Iron Man movie. And in my head, I had Edward Norton playing Tony Stark. And then they said Robert Downey Jr. And I was like, oh, you know what? That's even better.
Do you know who famously turned it down? Because they couldn't figure out a way to show his face. They didn't have the technology to do the face in the inside of the mask that Favreau came up with. It was Tom Cruise.
Well, Tom Cruise wanted, they offered it to Tom Cruise, but he said, okay, can we make the helmet clear so they can see my face?
Thank God.
I don't think so, buddy.
Yeah.
So Favreau picked Robert Downey Jr. and people were like, well, he's, kind of he's uninsurable at this point.
He's Tony Stark. What do you mean? He's Tony Stark? He's Tony Starkable?
He's exactly. So when they said that, I was like, well, that's perfect because they have a shared history of substance abuse there.
Yeah. He researched his whole life for the Demon in the Bottle storyline.
Yeah. But Favreau said, you know what? I want Robert Downey Jr. I'm willing to pay for his insurance. And Marvel, which is a brand new studio, is really betting all of their chips on Iron Man being successful because they were pretty much bankrupt if this didn't work.
Yeah.
So says I can make it work, and not only did the movie do extremely well, but him and Feige, they decided they're going to double down immediately and throw up a post-credit scene.
Wow.
So we will not be ending on me.
I didn't even consider this scene.
Tony Stark is walking through his house.
You're ending on Mike.
Oh, Tony Stark walks through his house, and Jarvis is malfunctioning. Who are you? Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.
Yeah.
So that set the seed for an entire universe to be set. I mean, if Iron Man doesn't work, there's obviously no Iron Man 2, and Marvel goes bankrupt. They probably have to sell off the characters to other studios just to make ends meet, and we wouldn't get the Avengers.
Oh, I'm glad that
is my
alternate
number
reality
2.
didn't happen.
That was your number 2. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'll just pick it because of the
Yeah.
clip that's made. I'll pick it back up. That's my number 1.
Cool, guys.
For pretty much
Cool.
basically all of
Cool.
what Matt said, but also for again how that popped me. I knew there was all the rumors that there was this end credit scene up until that point. I mean, we've had end credit scenes before. You've had your Ferris Bueller and all the rest of that kind of stuff, but end credit scenes were not a thing. They weren't a thing that you expected for.
No. They were like jokes.
Now, because now because of MCU, every big movie you expect an end credit scene now because of the MCU, and so there are all these rumors that there was this end credit scene that you had to wait for, and all the nerd sites are all like, stick around for the end credits because there's something there, and so you're sitting waiting for it, and Samuel L. shows up as Nick Fury, and you're like, are you serious right now? Are you serious right now? I want to talk to you about the Avengers initiative, and my brain exploded. What? Just gave me Iron Man. You just gave me Iron Man, and it was amazing. You're now going to tell me that this is going to be a big thing, that this is like going to be more than this, that you're bringing all the Avengers into this? Like, what? Are you kidding me? And so, that's that moment where you have this movie where, that's fun. It worked. I love this. But now it is, you have this thing where it's going to be so much more. It is going to be everything that you've wanted. Everything as a comic fan, this is what you've always wanted, right? And so we can now look at it, that it's got to the point where we got to Endgame, we got to all the rest of it, where you have that all fleshed out for the whole things, and you can see the end product. But like Matt said, this is the very beginning where you don't know. You have that anticipation. We're like, I don't know what's going to happen. Do you know what's going to happen? You're like, is this going to work? Is this going to, like, how are they going to do this? This could go 6 ways from sideways. We've already had like 2 full Fantastic Four franchises, and they've failed. We've had Spider-Man franchises. They've all failed. Is this thing going to work out? I don't know, but I'm excited for it. And so I'm just going from pure excitement. And there was no more excitement than watching that first end credit scene, and being like, the sky's the limit at this point. And to be honest, I couldn't have imagined at that point getting to where they were, years down the line. It exceeded my wild expectations. How could it not? Like, it's like everything that I wanted, and then 1,000 times more. So for that reason, that scene that we just watched was also in my number 1.
I can't say any better. That's unbelievable. I'm so glad. I didn't even pop on my radar of that, guys. That was an unbelievable choice. And the fact that you just totally summed it up, but also you're like, where's this going to go? And then you see Downey pop up at the very end of Incredible Hulk 2, like 2 months later, and you're just like, oh, we're all in on this. Well, what if I tell you we're putting a team together? Who's we? Now that scene plays kind of messier in the grand scheme and the grand story of stuff. But once he says it to Ross, you're like, who's we? Oh my God. And then that, and again, the end credits things become Marvel tradition. So
yeah,
what an unbelievable choice, guys.
Now, getting Samuel L. Jackson is terrific. And it was terrific for a lot of the comic book nerds, because in the Ultimates line of the comics, Nick Fury is designed to look like Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
So you got life in art imitating art.
And you have a moment between him and Cap that didn't exactly make it to the big screen, but where Cap doesn't believe that he is in charge because of he is black.
Really?
He is black. He's not buying it, and so there's this whole scene, right? And so I didn't expect it to be to make it the screen, but I had a good laugh that was a thing. And so I know, and it's funny because all the nerds at the time too went crazy and be like, why is Samuel L. Jackson playing Nick Fury? This is stupid. I mean, like, check yourselves. This is from the comics too. Like, this isn't just like they don't want to say like the
bring back Hasselhoff.
This is the woke culture again. We're like, no, this is from the comics, losers. Like, check yourselves. So I love it. Yeah. Fired up. Let's go.
Speaking of
Over to
checking, let's check out my number one.
Yep.
So I'm gonna set things up here.
If you got portals at 2, oh my gosh, what is that one?
So how did we arrive at portals? We arrived at portals because half of humanity was wiped out.
Nah.
And half of humanity was wiped out in Infinity War. And there were 6 words in that film that in the moment forever changed how I not only view the MCU, but movies in general. And they are, you should have gone for the head. My number one, without question, guys, is going to be, and I'm so glad this didn't come up on anybody else's, but we're going with the snap, the blip, whatever you like. So I found this on YouTube. This is a super cut of scenes where the most important moments in all the MCU universe are happening corresponding at the same time. Top left is Wakanda. The middle there is Ant-Man and the Wasp. And the bottom right is the beginning of Endgame, showing Hawkeye's perception of events. You also get Titan over there and Samuel L. Jackson and Colby Smulders on the bottom left. So Thanos has achieved what he set out for. An incredible character, an incredible story. He wants to get the stones to wipe out half of humanity, snapping his fingers. Subsequently, everyone starts turning to dust at this time. Mass confusion. What I love about this scene are 2 things in particular. First, we'll go with the obvious, and then the subtle. The obvious thing being that there's no music in this. It's just sounds of what's happening. And certainly in the Infinity War, they're just moving. The field, the shot of Winston Duke as M'Baku, it pans on him, and he's like, what is happening? What's going on here? There's confusion over here on the right-hand side. T'Challa going, this is no place to die, and then fading away to dust, too. The other thing I love about this is the you should have gone for the headline. It echoes in itself is there's an incredible scene, too. That became a massive thing on the internet, the I don't feel so good part. I want to go, I don't want to go.
Tearjerker.
Incredible stuff. What it is, too, you should have gone for the head is so important because I think about this. It showcases the arrogance the heroes have in doing this. Thor gets him in the chest so he can look him in the eyes while he kills him. But Thanos gets the one last chance on him, and effectively it's like, you're no better than us as villains. You know, you want the acclaim and the praise and the ability to rub it in and gloat. So ultimately, Thanos, clear-minded vision, what he wanted to achieve the entire time, wipe out half of humanity. And he says in the film, what would you do if you achieve it? He's like, I would rest, sit, and enjoy the sunrise after hard work. So again, that's what you get at the bottom screen there. Thanos retiring, knowing that he finally did it and achieved and set out his goal. And it was to wipe out half of humanity.
Well, not just humanity, half of the universe.
Yeah, the galaxy.
Right?
Everything.
Yeah. So, like, everybody.
And then once Cap realizes the final line of the movie, oh, God, fade to black. And what I love, and I saw this movie, I know I saw this with AB, and I saw this with Matt as well, too, Matt Marnuzzi. I remember being jaw-dropped and just watching this, and the full scene plays over the course of 7 minutes, and you're just like, okay, who's fading? Who's surviving? What's happening here?
People are crying in the theater.
Crying,
literally crying in the theater.
You can't not cry once you get to Spider-Man's part. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And that's just incredible acting. And then they've already had a shared history as well, too. So you get, because you've already had their stuff in Civil War and then again in Homecoming. And when he scolds Tom Holland's Spider-Man as well, too, that's an incredible father-son scene as well, too, because at this point, Tony Stark is not a father. So that's kind of the closest thing he has. So again, as you watch this film and see it all interplay, I remember just sitting there being like, "This is monumental. This is my no, I am your father. I wasn't alive. Baby. This is on that level." I remember seeing it and being like, "What is happening?" Like, I will never forget this moment that I'm watching the blip, the snap, anything else. And it's been played for comedy as well, too. And Far From Home, they kind of play it for comedy. But then in WandaVision, you do see the episode that I love. The episode 4 or 5 opens up with Monica coming back from the snap and unorganized confusion echoing from that. So again, just like I said, the fact that there was no sound over this, it was just playing out, very restrained and subtle. And then again, you get to the end credits, and Marvel does some incredible end credit scenes. Winter Soldier was great. Civil Wars were great. Guardians of the Galaxy, very colorful, lots of stuff. These were just black screen with white like text over top. The names, the names. And the one thing I love at the very end is it says Avengers Infinity War, and you hear that bing, bing, bang as the words and the letters fade off to dust. And I remember sitting there, and I was sitting next to you, and I just remember being like, this feels like a funeral. Like, this is unbelievable. You walk out of the theater, and again, you do get that scene with Captain Marvel.
Sad.
But you walk out of the theater, and you're just like, what happened? The villain won. The hero's lost. What is life? What means? Where does the universe go now? How are they going to do for Endgame? I remember that year leading up to it was, well, we didn't even know the title of the movie at that time. We found the title of the movie, I believe, around November or December prior to the following May. So we didn't even know what was happening. The press for Endgame was unbelievable. They didn't have any of the original stars. They had one where they had the sets, curtains opened up, and there was half the seats were missing. They didn't even have Chad Boseman and Holland on the press tour. They were saying, they're not in this movie. They're not in this movie. And again, just the specialness of Infinity War, you know, there's so much fan service in that film, but the fact that you actually see the villain wins, which, like, no movie would ever do. The villain actually wins.
Empire.
No, get a win. Thanos wins.
But you get to
this makes Empire look like a G-rated kids film. I'm gonna say
it. But
you have one villain leave with his hand cut off, my guy, but he leaves. This was half of the galaxy was gone. This is everything. And you get people like Mantis who feels and absorbs, so she understands it too. And then Peter Spider sense as well too. So like I said, this makes like Empire look like a color by numbers on the scale and the grandeur of like what of how important it is. So like I said, for everything else that the MCU was heading to this is undoubtedly going to be the biggest part for phase 4 and 5 and beyond. Like, this is going to be referenced for the rest of our lives, the snap and the blip. They're going to come back to it long down the road through like the Iron Heart show and She-Hulk. They're going to reference the snap and the fact that this is going to be a thing that's going to be around for the next 40, 50 years of films. And certainly you're going to find out later characters that were and didn't and how they coped and survived. And you get a lot of that in Endgame too. But I haven't seen and probably will never see anything better or more powerful than the snap / the blip from Avengers Infinity War.
Cool. Now, I wasn't watching very closely, but when the snap happened, is that when Matt disappeared?
No.
Is that part of the plan?
Is this? Have we lost him? Will he be back when my scene comes? You know, it's possible.
Wait, is it a slow fade? Like, is one of you gonna like disappear? Or am I gonna disappear?
Oh
no, we lose the sky.
Oh no! Oh, it's just us now. Oh,
it's the blip. It's the blip. The blip happened. He's back.
I mean, my head is killing
That's amazing.
It's
amazing.
And this is fitting.
Remember when I got all dusty and the wizard came and he said, "Hey, we gotta go."
This is fitting because my clip is from Endgame, so you guys have come back to me here. Now, who would have thought? Who would have thought that I would be wrapping up the Marvel clips? And I guess on that note, who would have thought that my clip would revolve around a quote of all people from War Machine? I mean, that seems a bit an odd thing, but let's see what I'm talking about here. This is actually one of my favorite minutes in all of the film, so it's actually perfect because it tears apart everything that we've watched and learned, and it's hysterical. So let me just get my sound correct here, and I'm gonna just play this through without talking. It's about a minute. Enjoy.
You're gonna feel a little discombobulated from the corner shift. Don't worry about it.
Wait a second. Let me ask you.
Sick haircut.
You do this, go back in time. Why don't we just find baby Thanos? You know?
First of all, that's horrible. Changing the past doesn't change the future. Look, we go back. We get the stones before Thanos gets them. Thanos doesn't have the stones. Problem solved.
Bingo. That's not how it works. Oh, that's what I heard.
That's what I heard.
Star Trek, Terminator, Time Cop, Time After Time, Quantum Leap, Wrinkle in Time, Somewhere in Time,
Hot Tub Time Machine,
Time Machine, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Basically, any movie that deals with time travel.
Die Hard?
No.
This is known.
I don't know why everyone believes that, but that isn't true.
Think about it. If you travel to the past, that past becomes your future. And your former present becomes the past, which can't now be changed by your new future.
Exactly. So Back to the Future is a bunch of bullshit.
He's the MVP of that film.
Well, it's so funny because they bring up all those films when those films do teach us exactly what Incredible Hulk's talking about. Is that by going into the past, they altered everything to make things the way they were, and you can't change it. So, like they brought up all those references, and be like, clearly you guys didn't understand those films because they don't prove your point; they prove Hulk's point.
Yeah, and I've watched that scene over and over because the first time it went so fast, I'm like, wait, what? And even the explaining that Hulk does, and even earlier on when Hulk goes and meets up with what's her name? The Ancient One, is it?
Yeah,
or...
Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, Swinton. And
that's a way better scene as far as explaining.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this wasn't
That's great. That's great.
So much as just laughs. But just those moments of understanding the whole premise of what they're going to do, and in this way, doing it again in a funny way, and just tearing apart all the other ones you've watched and you've loved. And I mean, we're big Back to the Future guys, but hearing him say, "Wait, that's a bunch of BS," I thought that was hysterical, and that was all just premised on War Machine saying, "Why don't we find baby Thanos?" It's that whole if you could go back in time, what would you shoot? I'd shoot baby Hitler. You know, that whole kind of that trope. And so that's the premise there. So that winds up being my number one in a comical, and it kind of pairs up with yours, Scott, because if they could go back and kill baby Thanos, then your whole scene wouldn't be there. And that's how I end our Marvel scenes.
There's one joke I felt was missing. I mean, it would be completely meta referential, whatever, but when they were listing the movies, I thought they should have had Deadpool 2.
Oh.
Well, they couldn't because
Star Trek, Time After Time, Back to the Future, Deadpool 2.
They didn't own Fox at the time,
right? But in their universe, it's just a movie.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, true.
Funny.
Oh, yeah,
that's hilarious.
That's funny.
Oh,
on that note, just keep talking a little bit about I just read a rumor that people have been talking about, and that I don't know if it's confirmed, but the word on the street is that Deadpool has taken over the cameo department from Stanley.
That's amazing.
Because they reported that Ryan Reynolds is showing up on sets for stuff, and they're like, "Oh, does Deadpool in it?" But then, like, why would Deadpool be in this movie, right? But then, if he shows up in the Stanley cameo role,
100 more Funko Pops.
Oh, damn it!
That reminds me.
We don't have enough Deadpool pops.
I wanted to use this as my background because I wanted a Stanley cameo in the episode. Boom!
Hey, there he is.
Nice.
Beauty.
I got my picture taken with him in the Calgary Comic-Con.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
R.I.P.
All right, so
with that is our list.
Anyone still watching? There are about 50 more moments if you can put in the comments. So I want to see. We didn't do Stark's funeral.
Right.
I thought for sure that would pop up. We'll talk off camera, but there's plenty more.
Yeah, well, I mean, to go.
Stay tuned.
If I wanted to list
credits.
Right. If I wanted to list honorable mentions, they already showed up on like your guys' list, essentially. So with that, everybody watching, we want to know what your favorite moments from the MCU are. Throw them in the comments. Like, share, subscribe this video. Visit Mack Flash on Twitter, Facebook, Patreon. We got stuff going on. I think that's it, guys. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.